Welcome to a Catholic Mom Book Club. We are talking this season, I guess we're the Winter Book Club. I had to think about what time of the year it was. In the Trenches, Finding God Through Parenting Littles by the author. Joining us today, Kelsey Gillespy. And we're also joined by her amazing editor, Courtney Saponaro. How'd
Good
I
morning.
do? Yay. Okay. So this book is out from the Pauline Books and Media. You might know the
Mhm.
Daughters of St. Paul. And if you go on, I have to get my hands ready because if you go on social media, hashtag Media Nuns, Super Bowl is coming. I'm telling you, get on Twitter
Pay
or X or
attention.
whatever we're calling it this year and watch for the Media Nuns during the Super Bowl. It is more entertaining than the commercials. So it really, really is.
And the
So
Super
it's
Bowl.
and this depends on who's playing. I actually like it better when my team isn't in the Super Bowl. It's like more entertaining. I hate when that. It's like somehow I have like some stake in the game. I don't. I don't win anything. I don't even bet. So there's that. So Media Nuns, Daughters of St. Paul. We're so thrilled to have uh, Kelsey and Courtney with us and in the trenches. And Kelsey, before we even start, you have something special you want to mention to our viewers today. We'll mention it throughout about how they could win a wonderful mug.
Yeah. So as you can see, last week I was drinking from an In the Trenches mug. This week it's a different one, but I wanted to invite you all to join us live and toss out some questions so that we can fellowship and grow together. So what we're planning to do, what I hope to do, is anybody who joins us live and asks a question, we're going to just put all your names into like a raffle to win one of these after the fourth session of our book club. So I hope you join us. I hope you ask questions, and I hope we can get to know each other better throughout this book club.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. And we'll put that obviously in the show notes and in CatholicMom.com where you can find the recording. And we're thrilled to have you joining us live. And we're also thrilled if your timing doesn't allow for it, 9:30 Eastern for the next now 2 Tuesdays after today to talk about parenting littles. But the what we loved about this book, Kelsey, and why Catholic Mom chose it is it's so much more than how to take care of our little babies. It is a prayer book. It is how to feed your soul as a woman, as a mother, spiritual mother, a biological mother, adoptive mother, whatever kind of mother God has created you to be. We're all, as John Paul II tells us, created to be mother, at least spiritual mother. And I think it feeds all of that while also being super entertaining. Gotta say, you're quite the storyteller. And as I mentioned at the beginning last week, I love that all the chapters are short. I like to feel like I am just knocking off chapter after chapter. I'm a to-do list crosser offer. Do you guys
Yes,
ever
me
write
too.
something? Do you ever write something on your to-do list just so you could cross it off?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yep.
After you've already done it, you're like, well, I'm gonna write that down so that I can just check it off. I feel so good about myself now. Yeah.
I love I'm not the only person who does that joyfully. Joyfully, I will write something down to cross it off. So
Absolutely.
this week we're going to jump into part two. Who is God? So Kelsey and Courtney, if you guys want to tell us a little bit about this particular portion of the book, starting with you, Kelsey.
Yeah, sure. No, I like the progression of this section, and I think Courtney and Sister Allison, my other editor, did such a good job in the way that they have placed each of these chapters and helped us kind of knit it together, because it starts off with a chapter that is very near and dear to my heart. I find myself kind of guilty about this a lot, where my kids, the story is about my kids and how they always just kind of fragment me, right? Like they view me as whatever they want me to be in that moment.
Mm.
Kind of reduce me into whatever it is that they want me to be, whether that's, a judge or an executioner or a security blanket or a playmate, punching bag, even sometimes. More often than not, kind of a magic genie. They just, want me to make whatever they want appear. But in doing so, and like reducing me, like pixelating me almost.
Oh, I like
Uh,
that image.
Thank you. Yeah, they lose sight of me. They lose me, you know, and my totality. They forget that I am a person with my own likes and dislikes and preferences and wishes and dreams. And so yeah, in doing that and reducing me to the little thing that they want from me, they lose sight of me. And how that's so true with like my relationship with God and how often I reduce him to what I want him to be, right? Like, oh, somebody's sick. You're a healer, like go heal them. Or I don't have what I want. God, you're a provider, like give me what I want. Just I'm going to make you whatever I want you to be. And in doing so, and pixelating God or fragmenting him, reducing him into the thing that I want him to be, he becomes like I lose sight. I lose sight of him, right? I lose sight that he is a person with a capital P, with his own likes and dislikes and preferences and wishes and dreams. And so it's good to remember that he's not a thing to be used, but a person to be known. And just that little bit was such a life-changing thing for me personally. And then of course it begs the question, well, if you're a person to be known, who are you? Right? What are you like? And praise God, like we have a God who is worthy of worship and worthy of praise, because we could spend our entire lives searching the depths of that question and never plumbing the depths, you know, and he's just inexhaustible in such a beautiful way. That this question, who is God, is literally a lifelong journey. But we have scripture, right? We have like so many God like telling us over and over, trying his hardest to reveal who he is and who he promises to be for us and with us. And he is this person who, like I said, he chooses and promises to be with us always and to the end of the age. So who is this person that's yoking himself to us for the long? I think that was kind of the first takeaway of my section here. I don't know, Courtney, if you have anything to jump in before I continue going on about who this person is. I could go on for days. So I'm going to let you take it from here, Courtney, and see what you think.
Okay. Well, thinking about, I was going back over the chapters in this section this morning and the discussion questions in the back of the book, and just thinking about how the way the book is structured, like each of the sections builds on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really interesting that this is a section that comes after last week we talked about what is parenthood. And then this week we're talking about who God is, because last week we talked about how like being a parent can show you more like ways in which you are mirroring God, but also ways in which like God is still parenting you through that.
Yeah.
So I think that the way that this section kind of flows from the last one is really neat. And I think this might be my favorite section in the book, because it spans the whole range of humor and just like really, really deep, sometimes intense topics.
Yeah.
And it shows, I mean, you do both fantastically well.
Oh, thank you.
Hey,
Yeah,
Courtney,
I like what you
go
said
ahead.
about they build on each other. And I totally agree. But in my mind, it's almost like inverse, like it's building downward. It's like digging deeper. Every single chapter is just digging deeper and deeper and deeper into this question of who is God. And what is this person like? What does he do? And in one of the chapters, and one of the reflections even, it talks about like in 1 John chapter 4 verse 8, it says that God is love, right? He like literally is love. That is the essence of his being. And so he chooses to be there with us, wanting our good, because right, that's like the definition in the catechism of the Catholic Church is like love is willing the good of someone else. So he's there with us, wanting our good, even if we don't choose him back. Even if we don't glance his way, he is still there beside us, loving us, wanting our good, our ultimate good, our true good, right? Which is obviously himself. And so when I realized that, I was thinking, man, like I like really think about that for a second. Like that kind of like what does that show about his being, right? Like to put himself with somebody else, loving them even when they don't even acknowledge him or sometimes even want him, you know. And it just shows how loyal he is, and how patient he is, how forgiving he is, even when he's being wronged, how self-sacrificial, and how his love is like it's not dependent on any external circumstances, right? Because his love is himself, right? Like he is love, and so it's dependent solely upon him, which means it's never ending, right? He's just this fount of love that never dries, and because of that, because his love doesn't depend on anybody else, like it's true and it's trustworthy. So when I learned about this, you know, we're trying to digging deeper and deeper and deeper. But so first he's a person, and then what person is he? He is love, who's always wanting our good. And so then it, you know, talks about like all loyal and patient and forgiving and all these beautiful things. And so when you like really get to know this person, and you want to turn to him more, it makes you want to turn to him, and it's kind of like when you have a good friend, and how do you get to know them? How do you build that friendship? Is you just constantly wanting to talk to them, wanting to call them, text them, see them throughout the day. And when you find out they're like such a great person, like you want to trust them even. And with God, you also kind of find that you want to obey, and which I think is such a, I don't know, it's countercultural, right? Like in this society, it's like, well, you should just do what you want, you know, be a leader and take charge, and you tell him who's boss. And it's like, well, I'll tell you who's boss is that guy, and I'm so happy about that.
Yes.
I'm so glad that it's not me, and then my job is just to submit. That's fine. That's a good thing. Nobody should have me in charge. But so anyways, yes, that's kind of digging a little bit deeper into, he's a person, he's a full person with likes and dislikes and wishes and dreams, but also who is this person? He is love itself. He's the thing that our hearts long for.
One of the things I was thinking of you were speaking is how God is the ultimate parent, right? He's the ultimate parent, and he has to make decisions and allow things, the natural consequences of behavior of his children. And that can sometimes make people really angry and reject. You know, as a mother, I've had kids pretty angry with me because I've had to, you know, allow them to feel things that they really would have liked me to save them from. And I have to allow them to make their own mistakes. And I have to make decisions like not giving them candy at 3:00 in the morning, even though they really, really want it. Right. But I think for me, growing in deeper love with God came with understanding, as you're saying, that he wants my ultimate good, and understanding that that ultimate good that God wants for me is heaven forever. And that everything he allows here, whether it's making me smile or making me grimace or making me cry, all should sanctify me so that I reach that ultimate goal that he has for me. And that can be very hard. It could be hard as a human grown up, and it can be hard as a mother trying to do what's right for my children and to be that parent. So knowing that they're not going to always like my decisions for them. And I think I wish I had known that better, you know, when my kids were littler, because I think I would have made different decisions. God makes good from all things. I'm always telling him that. Remember, you promised to make good from all my mistakes. But I just think, you know, as we're talking about who is God, that's just an insight that I personally had about his goodness and his love, and how I can grow to trust in him. The other thing that Courtney mentioned that I would love for you to both talk a little bit about is the structure of the book. I love reading a book and by myself in the morning with a good journal and diving deep into my own thoughts. But I think I get the most out of a book like we're doing today, sharing it with others, bringing people together. And I've seen that the structure of the book kind of calls to that. I love the little snack time. So tell us a little bit about snack time. And then, as Courtney alluded to, the questions in the back of the book.
Yeah. Courtney, do you want to take this one or do you want me to go for it?
I mean, you're the one who came up with the structure of the book, so
okay.
I'll let you start.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm a sucker for narrative, and I find parallels between like stories and analogies for faith, life, and God. So obviously, I wanted to start there. But also, it can't just end there, right? That it has to be some sort of call to action if this is going to be a transformative piece of literature, I suppose. And so snack time, right? Like snacks are like the miracle cure for everything in my house, at least. Right. And even, I don't know, like if anybody's like shouting or like fighting, I'm like, here's a Snickers, whatever, like in the commercials, and they're like finally like back to themselves. And so we wanted to give them this snack that would nourish them and sustain them, any of the readers. And it's this call to action. It's this it's either something that they can read to nourish themselves, but also a challenge to put what we've learned into practice. And I think that's definitely an integral part of letting something not just inspire you but transform you. So, and then of course there's also a prayer portion for each chapter as well.
That's wonderful. Anything to add to that, Courtney, or did she?
No, I mean that sums it up pretty well. As for the 4 parts of the book, I think you already submitted the book with those in place, Kelsey, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that it's also really good. I mean, you start with parenthood because it's a book about parenthood. And then
Right.
the section we're talking about today is who is God, which, as I said, that already makes sense. It's helping you go deeper. And then the next section being who are you? Like, I really feel like it's important to have laid the foundation of, who God is so that we can better understand then who we are, and also looking at it through the lens of motherhood.
Right.
And
especially, especially because moms usually feel like their identity is totally lost, right? In the daily grind of motherhood. So how can they infuse their identity into the daily demands? I think exactly. is I don't know, reframing how people think about motherhood.
I love that. I love reframing. It's like one of the greatest ways for us to I'm a person who's constantly looking for the God and the good in things, and reframing really is a beautiful technique and tool for doing that. We do have some questions and some comments I'd like to share with you.
Sure.
First, from Lisa Hendy, founder of Catholic Mom. Thanks for joining us, Lisa. Again, she's up super early because she's on the West Coast.
You're a trooper, Lisa.
She certainly is. Lisa's question is, I'm wondering if Kelsey always had these ideas about who is God, or if motherhood has further defined her understanding of the divine.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking it. I hope everybody is always asking, like, who is God and how can I get to know him better and what is he like? But I think definitely through this avenue of parenthood, this this thing that I once thought was taking me farther away from God, right? Like it was like distracting me from God, and it was getting in the way of my prayer time and all these things. I thought it was just like a wedge kind of between me and God, ended up being this beautiful avenue that has opened my eyes to him more than anything I have ever experienced, probably ever before, because we had that reframing moment. And so, yeah, definitely in regards to God being Father, being a parent, definitely helped me open my eyes to God as Father. But God also reveals himself, and I was going to talk about this a little bit too. God also reveals that he's bridegroom, right? The entire Old Testament is just constantly calling his bride back to him, right? And saying like, I've loved you as I am your husband, I am your maker, and I am your husband, right? And you are my wife, you are my beloved. And it's just this constant love story where he's saying, I'm going to pursue you the way a zealous bridegroom pursues his beloved, right? Pursues his bride. And that message stretches all the way through the book of Revelation, when he's very explicitly saying that Jesus is the bridegroom to the faithful, to his people, right? And so, I mean, God is in everything, right? God is everywhere. God is everything. And so we can turn to anything. We can turn to the vocation of parenthood and understand more of who he is as a parent, as a father. But we can also turn to like marriage sometimes to understand more of that spousal relationship with him, which I can totally talk about in just a second. But absolutely, parenthood has deepened my understanding of God the Father, just because it's a shared vocation with him.
So another question that we have from Teresa Gallagher is, Kelsey,
Teresa.
How do you deal with the times you make mistakes as a mother? You mean every time you breathe, really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my kids will be quick to tell you about all the mistakes that I've made. It's funny, so I'm a recovering perfectionist. So when I first started to become a mom and realized, holy cow, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm making mistakes all the time. Like, this is stabbing to my soul, right? There is no perfectionism in motherhood. It's not possible. And so it's helped me grow in humility, and it's helped me grow in like this desperate dependence on Jesus, right, and his mercy. And it's also, I feel like, given me an opportunity to display that for my kids, right? Because oftentimes the people that I wrong the most are my kids. And so I have to model by word and deed what it looks like to make a mistake and then like amend it, and to ask for forgiveness and to make atonement. That's what we kind of always talk about with my kids. And so it's kind of fun to see them then take on those things, right? Like I show them, like, when I make a mistake, I'm going to apologize and then I'm going to do something to fix it, right? Like if you hit a baseball through somebody's window, it's really good to go over and say that you're sorry. That's a great first step. But then also you should replace the window for them, So you have to say you're sorry, and then you have to do something to make atonement. And so it's been a beautiful opportunity, a humbling opportunity to be the person that gets to show them that. And it's been really cool to even, like, my 4-year-old, just this morning something happened, and so she's like, I need to go say I'm sorry and then go fix it and do something to make it right. And so I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you do. That's a great idea.
That's awesome.
Picked up on that. So how do I handle my mistakes? I just plead for mercy, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Courtney, don't you see that? Like, as she was speaking, you're probably thinking the same thing. Like, I do that with God. Like, in our own spiritual life, right? We all have to do that same thing, amend. I love reconciliation. It's my favorite thing. I used to be so afraid of it, but then I realized it's a sacrament of healing. It is such a good, God is so good, a good parent. He gives us, if we can't figure out how to show him we're sorry, he's like, here. Just like you model for your children, he models for us through the sacrament of reconciliation. All right, we have another question from Carol Sheck. I hope I said that right, and I apologize ahead of time.
Hey, Carol.
Kelsey, I'd love to hear your own favorite spiritual book. So I'm a convert who's new to all this. Welcome to the church, Carol.
Nice.
I could use a recommendation. This book is absolutely beautiful. I've cried so much reading it. And Carol, before Kelsey answers, I'm going to also direct you over to CatholicMom.com, we have many, many, many books under the folder books. And under media recommendations, we are always reviewing new Catholic books and like a couple a week. So if you're looking for recommendations, go to CatholicMom.com. We have lots. And of course, the Daughters of St. Paul, Pauline Books and Media, PaulineStore.com can also get you quite a few. All right, now, Kelsey,
They've got good stuff.
Yes, they do.
First of all, Carol, welcome to this chat and to the church. I am also a convert myself, so yay. So happy to have you here. And 3 books came to mind immediately, and they're all like ridiculously different. So the first is Rome Sweet Home by Scott and Kimberly Hahn. Obviously, like anything that they do is going to be amazing. So just anything that, just say Scott Hahn, and then it's great, and then you can read it. Also, gosh, Brent Petrie, he's one of my favorites. I could read anything that he wrote and listen to anything he says and be a happy camper.
Great.
Another one is this one sounds very like super flowery or something, but it's like Mary Magdalene, Prophetess of the Eucharistic Love. Yeah, it's very good. It's by Father Sean Davidson. It's very good. Mary Magdalene is my confirmation saint, and we actually named our oldest after her as well. She was like the first to go proclaim the gospel. It's really cool. Anyways, so that's like a really deep insight into her if you're interested. And then another one that like totally rocked my world was Saint Faustina's Diary. That was intense and seriously transformative. So those were some of the ones that I think were really big hitters for me. But like Allison mentioned, there's so many good ones out there.
Try that again. The Faustina's Diary. If it seems overwhelming, there's actually a lovely book out called Our Friend Faustina from a couple of Catholic Mom contributors, Emily Geminet and Michelle Fenley. And I was blessed to be in one of the chapters. There's 11 chapters. 11 women shared their encounters with the diary with personal stories. So it's a really easy way into the diary. If you look at it and go, that's bigger than my phone book, I'll never read that. It just gives you these little bite-sized pieces, and then it really does inspire you to read the whole book. And I can't leave this without asking the editor herself. Courtney, do you have any books that really inspired your own faith?
I mean, I'm a convert too, so yay, convert party.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like a book that just kind of covers a lot about the faith that was really influential for me. I mean, it's been 10 years now since I've read it, but I think I would say Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. If you haven't read that one, that's a good place to start. I mean, I love all of
it. So good.
I love all of C.S. Lewis books. I mean, he's not Catholic, but like he has so much insight into how the human soul
Mere Christianity is my favorite Lewis book too.
I mean, it's not my favorite Lewis book, but I think it's a good one to start with.
Yeah. And there are many, many theologians who would tell you that he was pretty close to be Catholic, and even some believe that he was on his way to conversion, but he really has some beautiful insights. Those are excellent recommendations. So we only have a few minutes left. Kelsey, I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to share with everybody, what you really hope they would get from this particular portion of the book.
Yeah, well, thanks so much. I think from this portion of the book, I just wanted to invite people to just really chew on and gnaw on and pursue like constantly every day for their whole life, not just while they're reading this book, but always. Who is God? Who is this person that I'm staking my life on, or I'm claiming to believe in, I'm pledging allegiance to? I don't know, that sounds very patriotic, and I'm not trying to use it in a patriotic way. But like, who is this person? And to just invite them on the journey with me of figuring that out for the rest of our lives, basically. But that we can always turn to Scripture, because he's constantly trying to tell us. That's his wish for us, is that we would know him, right?
Okay, sorry, multitasking as usual. We have some more questions, but I was just going to one of them I'm going to ask people to answer Sorry, it jumped.
Mm.
Here it is. I was going to ask people to answer that in the chat since we're running low on time, or maybe this is something we can pick up next week, Kelsey, with this answer from Carolina.
Okay.
So welcome to the church was the most influential person in your conversion. And I think even as a cradle Catholic, I have a seed planter for my reversion when I was kind of going away. So I think that'd be a great conversation that we can continue in the comm box after we go off air, if we can continue to share that. And a comment here from Katie Johnson. Sorry, that was in and out. The chapter about your miscarriage really touched me. My son was stillborn, and I struggle with understanding why God will allow this. How did you find the faith to trust God during this time? I know we're running short, but honestly, as a person who had 2 miscarriages, I want to make sure we give some comfort and some words to Katie. So I'm going to take a little extra time, Kelsey, if you don't mind responding to Katie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a hard experience, right? And especially when it's happening, you just don't understand, And I think when stuff like this happens, it doesn't, it will never make sense outside of faith. Do you know? Like, the only comfort, like the reason that you trust him is because that's the only way it makes sense, right? To trust and to know that God is with you, to know that God weeps with you, right? Like the time that Jesus wept in the Bible was when he thought about losing one of his loved ones. So he's there weeping with us. He's mourning with those who are mourning. And that's the only way that any pain or suffering ever makes sense, in a way. Without God, there is no sense in pain or suffering. But with God, there is hope. With God, there is the promise of healing, the promise of reuniting. So I guess that's what it is just, and he was so patient in his, I mean, it looks like you've read the chapters, right? It took me a long time to come to that conclusion. For a long time, I was like, no, I'm not going to trust you. Like, it doesn't make any sense to trust you. It seems naive. It seems foolish. Like, I'm not going to trust anybody right now. I'm just going to do what I have to do. Like, I'm being told to do this. So I'm just going to do this. And, all along, he was just holding my hand without me even realizing it, taking care of all of the things that needed to be taken care of without me even realizing it. And when I noticed that, I thought, well, why? I should have trusted you all along, right? You've been with me all along. Who else would I trust besides you? So.
And I just want to add, one of the things that was really healing to me was to name my child. That child, that soul exists. This is a real person. I'm really mourning their loss. Many people, because mine were, over 20 years ago, would say, the best thing is just to move on. And you can't. This was a child you had dreams for and hopes for, and they still exist. Their soul still exists. And we believe, obviously, that we leave everything to the mercy of God. And I can't imagine a merciful God not taking that little soul and adding them to your saint posse. So
right.
I
praise
really
God
believe
for the communion of saints, right? And that
Amen.
we have like a prayer warrior in heaven right now with us, for us.
Absolutely. So name that child, embrace the fact that they do exist, that God had a plan and a reason, and we won't understand it this side of heaven why. But please know also that my prayers go with you, Katie, and everyone who has really suffered through the loss of miscarriage. It's something we really need to talk more about. So I'm really glad, Katie, that you felt the strength and courage to share that with us. Kelsey, your answer was quite beautiful, kind of like choking me up beautiful.
Oh,
so this has been just I'm glad we took the extra time. It's been such a wonderful time talking with both Courtney and Kelsey. We're going through the Catholic Mom Winter Book Club, In the Trenches, Finding God Through Parenting Littles, Pauline Books and Media. you can go to paulinestore.com to learn more. There's a beautiful downloadable rosary for parenting littles that I highly recommend. You can also go to catholicmom.com where you'll find the recordings from last week and more information about how you can follow us in the next 2 weeks that we have. Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern. We're also doing something very special with this book club, and it's becoming part of the Catholic Mom podcast, Momcast podcast, extra material resources that we're sharing.
This is a
So
reminder.
sorry, my reminder at my next meeting. Thank you all so much for being with us. Thank you again to Kelsey and Courtney, and we'll see you all next week at the Catholic Mom
This is a reminder.
Book Club.